Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Coffee Corner. Today is your episode 137. The reason I decided to film a video today, just in case I can't do it by the end of the month, at least I have one to wrap up 2025. So anyway, let's get started. For today's topic, I do want to talk about people pleaser again, but this concept I just found a couple days ago. It really resonated with what I was thinking. And then this came to my mind, and then I think it might be very interesting to talk about and share this with you guys. So 2 days ago, I came across this book. It's called The House of My Mother. There's a documentary on Hulu. It's called Devil in the Family, The Fall of Ruby Frank. So it's a mother influencer on YouTube, how she started her channel, how she grew millions of followers. And then her daughter, her oldest daughter, reviewed everything about her mother, how she abused her siblings and then the whole drama, everything. So I first didn't think I would like it. I actually really loved the book and I finished the book in 2 days. One concept I learned from the book, it's called fawning, Fawn, fawning. So when I first saw that, my reaction is, isn't this a people pleaser? That's why I want to talk about it. And one thing she mentioned, her therapist mentioned that is, why do we want to please people? First of all, we want to protect ourselves. It's our way to protect ourselves from getting hurt. We make people happy. So if they are happy, they're less likely to hurt us in many ways. So for example, think about who do you want to please in your life, either in the past or right now or in the future. Either it's your parents or friends or coworkers. The reason you want to please them is because you want to avoid getting hurt, emotionally or physically. And I was like, I never really think about that. And one thing I was really thinking is, we want to please people. It's not we want them to like us more. It's we want them to hurt us less. It's actually the totally opposite of what people think what we want. Some people may think we please people because we want to be the attention of it or because we want to be loved, but it's just our way to protect ourselves. So back to this concept about fawning, I actually made a note about the book. This is my little note. This is a quoting from this book, chapter 36. It says, fawning can look like always agreeing with others, even when you disagree inside. It's constantly trying to keep the peace, putting others' needs before your own, even when it hurts you. People who fawn often become hyper attuned to others' moods, trying to anticipate and meet their needs before they're even expressed. This is the first sentence I thought. Yes, we're trying to meet their needs before they are even expressed. So think about there's moments that you see someone, you kind of sense that something's going on, and you right away adjust your strategy and you're trying to do things ahead of time, trying to be proactive because you know if you don't do that, something bad is going to happen to you. So let's be clear. Fawning is more of a pathological diagnosis of a personality disorder. We're probably not at that level, but it's close to that. Some people might have it and you just don't know that you're not aware of it. How would you be aware of it? You might think you're just a people pleaser. Some of us, including myself, I think we're only at the level of people pleaser, so we are able to identify it and we can try to fix it or adjust it and then try to improve. But fawning is actually a clinical symptom that you have to receive professional treatment to even be aware of it and try to do something to help yourself. But that moment I was thinking about back then, my dad was not very emotionally stable. There was a moment I was doing nothing but studying so hard for a test. So I was staying at home. And I feel like for every breath I took was a mistake. And I was so worried I was going to yell at. That was the moment I felt like. So I was very, very careful. I felt like I was walking on an eggshell. And of course, I want to do things to please him so he doesn't yell at me or he doesn't say something bad to me. It's a way to protect myself. And that's how I learned to see and sense what other people want, what other people need before they even express it to me. And that's my kind of superpower, that I can know, or I know how this person feels and how I can change my strategy around this person. You can turn it definitely into your advantage, but of course it's going to be very tiring for you because you have to constantly focus on what other people think, what other people need. And then you are putting yourself behind everything. You're at the bottom list. When you do that, you are suppressing your feelings and needs. When you suppress your needs, your inner self is not heard and your inner needs are not met. When your needs are constantly not being met, you're going to go crazy and you feel tired, you feel depressed. Those kind of things will be symptoms of funning or people pleasing. What I really want to say, that I know why I want to bring this up, is I want to, if you have similar situations or symptoms, let's say that, I want you to know that being a people pleaser is not your fault. Being a people pleaser is your way to protect yourself, and your mind, your body, they know it, they know you, and they want to protect you. There's inside child, and then they want to tell you that there's danger around you, so you have to do something to protect yourself. And also when it comes to pleasing people, certain type of people, think about this way in the future. If you don't have a sense of feeling that you have to please people around a certain group of people, that probably means you're hanging out with the right crowd. If you feel there's a little bit a threat of you have to, if you don't do that, you're going to feel isolated, you're going to feel hurt, or you're going to be judged or something like that, most likely those people are a little bit too dangerous for you. So by dangerous, I mean they might not hurt you, but they might bring some negative energy to you, which is not what you want. And if you don't want it, your body will tell you to please them so they don't bring it to you. So that's what I think, why it is important to understand people pleaser and finding this concept. So for the next quote, it says, in abusive situations, I am really hoping this doesn't happen to any of you in front of the camera, in front of the video. But if it does and you're not aware of, I hope this quote will wake you up. In abusive situations, fawning can manifest as a smiling and a nodding where you are screaming inside. It's doing whatever it takes to keep an abuser happy because you've learned that's the safest way to survive. It might not be that extreme, but think about, let's say, at a dinner with your relatives or parents, they're talking about you or they point their fingers at you, talking about something negative and judging, and you felt so helpless, hopeless. There's nothing you can do other than smiling and nodding at them, because agreeing, saying yes to them will save a lot of effort and hassle instead of arguing back and speak up for yourself, because when you speak up for yourself, you are causing more trouble, more conflict, which you are not a fan of that. And let's say you hate confrontation and you don't want to stir the pot. So what are you going to do? You're just going to say yes to be safe. Some people might interpret that in a way that they are just trying to not argue with people like that, difficult people like that, just to save some hassle, and then they might leave that situation afterwards. Then that's a different situation. If you're going to have to live with them for a very long time, there's no way for you to create a physical distance between you and those group of people, even including your parents. The way you say yes and smile, everything you agree with when they say that to you, it's totally a way from you to protect yourself, to survive in certain situations like that. It's very striking when I saw this sentence, when I read this sentence in the chapter. And that's why I want to write it down and actually talk about it, which I bought this flashcards to make notes about it. Then after that, I kind of went to dig a little bit on this topic and I found the meaning of it. The literal meaning of funning someone is to try and win favor by flattering. So while you're saying, oh, you're so nice, you look really nice, you look beautiful, or you're always the nicest person. So anything you can say to gain the favor from that person. Some people might interpret it as you trying to get attention to yourself. Some might interpret it as you are desperate for love or anything. It can be either way. It can be none of that. All in all, it is your way to survive in certain situations, especially in a social relationship. Another definition of this is fun response. So it says trauma-based coping strategy where a person tries to stay safe by pleasing, appealing, or over accommodating others. Over accommodating others. When I read over accommodating, that is me. Have you had someone who always say you're so thoughtful, you're so considerate, you're always trying to not make other people feel awkward? Right? You feel like it's your job to ease the situation, to not cause any conflicts. If such a thing happens, you're not comfortable and you want to do something. Or similar situation will be you're in a conversation and then when someone says something awkward or when there's an awkward silence, you kind of feel like you have to fill in the silence. I feel like it's a way of overcompensating because you feel it's your job to make everybody happy, even though you don't want to do that. And I tend to do that. Not only I over accommodate, I also overshare. And the oversharing part, I really need to get rid of. Maybe that would be one thing I can put on my list for New Year's resolution or something. Anyway, all in all, what they say is the key information about fawning is safety. So you want to be safe. That's all you want. And nothing more, nothing less. If you keep other people happy and then nothing bad will happen, that's what you think. And that's what your mind tells you. And that's what your body tells you what to do. But why it develops, again, remember this is a pathological concept and the diagnosis, where it's not just self-diagnosed that you have the symptoms. Certain things like narcissism, everybody's talking about that, and NPD or anything. Some people might be just self-centered, self-absorbed, might not be diagnosed as NPD, right? Narcissistic personality disorder. So there's a difference. I try my best to not blur the line, but I don't know if I'm doing a good job or not. Anyway, so why it develops? Conflict led to punishment, rejection, or emotional withdrawal. Think about yourself when you were a child. Have you had moments that when you didn't listen to your parents or anyone, they turned their shoulder back at you and they gave you a cold shoulder, right? They decided to not talk to you, ignore you, or ask other people to isolate you. So that's called emotional withdrawal. And all of a sudden, they decide to not like you. It's a kind of punishment to let you know that they have a power to ruin you. Also, punishment can be, let's say, physical punishment, emotional punishment, any kind. But if you don't do it, you're getting punished for not doing that or those kind of things. So you quickly learn how to adapt to that strategy. And to keep yourself safe, you always want to keep them happy. So that's how it develops. And also rejection is another sign of how you develop a fawn response. For example, if you ask somebody something, they'll say no to you. So the quick way to get yes is, of course, to make them happy, either with your friends, with your parents. Most likely happen when you were little with people who are very close to you. That's how you grew up with it because you quickly learn how to adapt it to certain situations. Another one is very common, and I think it's very popular now, is, of course, conditional love. If the love you receive always with the conditions, if you do this, I'll love you. If you do that, I'll love you. If you don't do this, I'll leave you. Or something like a threat. You will also feel like to get someone's love or like, you have to do something. And that have to do something will be involving people pleasing. Which later on, if you don't really realize that or aware of such a situation, you might further develop into fawn response. That's what I think based on what I learned from this concept. Another one is very interesting. I thought about that. It says authority figures were unpredictable or emotional unsafe. So for us, growing up will be, of course, our parents, right? Especially if in the family your father has a strong personality or your mother has a strong personality. Those people are authority figures. So they have a power to say things, to make decisions. If they have emotional instability, it's more likely for you to respond to that differently. And the way to avoid, I don't know what's going to happen next, you will always want to please them, make them happy. So the I don't know what's going to happen will never happen. You would hope, right? So that's why it says unpredictable. I don't know what's going to happen. And then sometimes, well, as a kid, I don't know if my parents had a stressful day or something bad happened at work or with other people. They came home, you might be the last straw, and then the wrong button, and then all of a sudden took out their anger on you, right? And that's how you quickly learn to say, well, I have to be very good. I have to be very obedient. I have to do whatever they're told, even though I don't want to do it, even though I know it's wrong. But I will say yes to you as long as you are not mad at me. It's our little person's way to survive in such a situation. And I think about now I have a kid, and sometimes I'm thinking about my kid. They're really helpless. They're really powerless. You have absolute power over them. You can do, if they don't want to go anywhere, you pick them up. That's it, right? If they don't want to do it and then you force them to do it, you force them to do it. And there's ways to just make them do things the way you want. And they have no power to fight back against you. But some parents might not know that or might not be aware of how powerful they are, what they can do, and what kind of damage they can bring to their kids. But again, that's how I thought about authority figures. Now, right away, I'm thinking about my parents, especially my father. He had a very strong personality when he was young. He's getting better now. And sometimes you can tell he realized he said something wrong and he quickly just leave the room or leave the conversation and will recover and come back again. But when I was young, I can tell. Like there were a lot of moments I just didn't know how to handle his reactions. So the way for me to keep myself invisible, keep myself very, very quiet, that's my personality, right? So you don't see me, then nothing happens. If something bad happened, it should be someone else, not me, because I wasn't even there, right? So that's my way to protect myself. And then move on to next stage is what are the emotional consequences? Here are very interesting. The first one is chronic people pleasing. You always want to please people, even if you don't have to. So right now for me, sometimes I kind of feel the urge to please somebody when I feel a little bit threatened, even though I don't know why. I am really getting better of not pleasing people. But some people might not be able to get rid of that. They will constantly want to please people for no reason. So that's a chronic. Another one is burnout. And like what I said in the beginning of the video, that if you always suppress your feelings and needs, at some point you're going to reach the threshold and you are going to burn yourself out. So think about the last straw. You never know when it's going to happen, when it's going to come, right? Very interesting that happens to me again. This is why I like to talk about it, because I feel very resonated. Guilt when setting boundaries. I don't know if you have moments that you're trying to set boundaries between you and your parents, because now you're grown up. You have a right to do what you think is right, and you don't want to really listen to your parents. So you start to set clear boundaries, and then you are accused of being selfish, or yourself accusing yourself of being selfish. How dare I set boundaries between my parents and I? They sacrifice a lot. They really love us, or things like that. Or even with your friends, let's say you guys are friends, we're friends. How can I just set clear boundaries? We should never do that because that will break our relationship, or things like that. So you always have the guilt from setting boundaries. I remember the first time I said no to my friend about something. She wanted me to do things, but I really didn't want to do it. And that was my first time saying no to her. And then she was very shocked, and I felt so bad. I still remember her reaction. We're still friends, but she was just shocked. She didn't expect no from me. And then later on, we talked about this, and I explained we were all amazed by each other. But I had the guilt for a very long time, and I still remember her reaction of it and the feeling I had afterwards. Very interesting. Another one is what I just talked about, feeling invisible or taken advantage of. So think about at work, nobody noticed you all the time, right? Because you are trying to keep low-key, or you're trying to please people. So you're always the unimportant one. You're invisible. When there's something interesting, something important, everybody can be involved except for you because they don't remember you. Or when there's something bad, let's say there's a huge amount of workload and they can't find someone to do it, you're always the one to do it because they know you will never say no. So you feel like you will always be taken advantage of. Those kind of things all reminded me when I was like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Yes, but now I feel so much more confident in myself that I know how to protect myself in a healthy way. Anyway, we'll talk about that. Next one is difficult identifying personal needs. So you don't know what you want because you always put other people's needs before yourself. And what do you want? It's long lost. You never know. You never can find out just because you never really think about that yourself. So one thing, my coping strategies, that doesn't mean works for you. It might not. My first coping strategy is, of course, taking everything and doing everything baby steps. Don't just do a big leap. So for example, saying no. I have a video talking about saying no. If you want to say no to something, don't say no to big things because that would be a huge shock. You might be backfired by saying that. And then you will be taken aback and you will be thinking about, I will never do that because such consequences. I just can't deal with that. So saying no to small things. Saying no to small things like, for example, if your friend always borrows stuff from you, so let's say charger, your friend always borrows a charger from you, and then one day you have to use the charger first because your phone is running out of battery or your camera is running out of battery. Your need is prior to hers, and what you need to do at this moment is say no. Say no, because this is a small thing. Just say, oh, I'm very sorry, I can't lend you my charger because right now I'm charging. If I don't, my batteries will be out. At first, you will always want to explain why you say no. And more, if this happens more and more, and then you say no more and more, you will realize that there's no reason to say no. I just don't want to lend you a charger at this moment. Not only because I need it, because I just don't want to. Why don't you buy a charger for yourself, right? But of course, I'm not going to say that. And then step a little bit further, and you might say no to your roommates or coworkers for certain things that they want you to buy things, and they never really pay you back. Or they either forget or they're trying to take advantage of you. So this is how you can step up and tell them that I need you to pay me, or I will say no for buying things for you. Don't just take a leap. Second thing is setting boundaries. I remember when I was working with another language organization, I had students texting me, calling me outside office hours. I was really feeling so depressed and stressed. And the first thing I did was telling everybody that I am not answering your phone calls and emails or text messages outside office hour. Of course, they were really shocked. I even got a message from students that you're supposed to answer my questions anytime, anywhere. And I just ignored the message. If it makes me uncomfortable, I'm going to stop doing that. And for the first time, I felt like very uncomfortable doing things like that. I felt like I wasn't doing a good job, but then my students are not going to like me. I won't be their favorite teacher. That urge to please them so I can be their favorite person. Oh, that was really difficult, but I did set boundary clearly. And again, take a baby step. Don't just take a leap. If you have something you feel like you can set a boundary and do that, you can even write it down. Maybe you're not able to make it happen, but write it down first and tell yourself next time I will do it. Last tip on this topic is know what you want. It's simple to say that. It's not easy to do it. What do you really want? In a difficult situation, you want to say yes at the moment, or you have to say yes in that moment to protect yourself. But first reaction is in your mind, deep down, what do you really want? If you do so, would that hurt you? If it hurts you, and would you want to do it? What is the consequences of between you say yes and you say no? You weigh them and decide which way to do. I'm not saying that you're going to be this hardcore, you're going to say no to everybody, you're going to just hurt everyone to get what you need. But I think there's a way you can balance everything. There's time you have to say yes, even though you don't want to, but the consequence or the results that you will get are way better than when you say no, then say yes. If when you say no, the consequences are way bigger than what you can actually get that will benefit you, then don't say yes to it. Say no to them. And in that way, you feel better, and you feel better knowing yourself. You feel better. You feel like you're getting better identifying what you really need in a rational way, right? So you're not just saying absolutely no or absolutely yes. You have to weigh the situation and make your decision. But of course, everything I say here, it takes time to practice. And it takes practice to get perfect. But all in all, you just have to know either being a people pleaser or being a hardcore, it's your way to protect yourself. If that works for you and you feel safe to do so, do it, but don't hurt you. If protecting yourself means you have to sacrifice everything, then it's not worth it. You might as well just get up and speak up and then say, fuck it, I don't care about anybody, right? Anyway, so that's my thought about this topic, and I hope you like it. And I am hoping I can do one more video at least by the end of the month to wrap up 2025. I really want to talk about my highlights of down moment of it, what I've achieved, what I haven't, and what I'm thinking and focusing on, those kind of things. But I don't know. So stay tuned for whatever is coming. Anyway, bye.